Hello, a very warm welcome to Dateline London. I'm Carrie Gracie, and this week we'll be discussing the Brexit talks. We'll look at the upcoming elections in Italy and weigh the political implications in China of the possibility of indefinite rule for President Xi Jinping. My guests this week are the Chinese writer Diane Wei Liang, Ned Temko of the Christian Science Monitor, Annalisa Piras, Italian filmmaker and broadcaster, and the American podcaster Michael Goldfarb. Welcome to you all. Let's go for Brexit first, get it dealt with. Ned, you're watching closely. Who's up, who's down on the Brexit escalator this week?
Well, I suppose you could say this was a good week for Theresa May, and we haven't said that often in the past few months because she gave a major speech on Friday in which she gave us a little bit more clarity about what she wants out of Brexit, which is to say, get out of the single market, the customs union, and do this kind of bespoke agreement which will guarantee pretty much unchanged access, she hopes, in areas of the European economy and in regulatory agencies that are important to Britain. So that was good. Much more importantly, she finally, in public, jettisoned this kind of flippant but obviously charming and entertaining line of people like Boris Johnson, that Britain can have its cake and eat it, that this is all going to be... So she said
nobody's going to get everything they want.
Absolutely, and she said actually explicitly that in order to gain access on some level, Britain is going to have to accept EU regulations, possibly EU legal rulings, and it's going to have to pay, for instance, if it wants to be part of these regulatory agencies.
I just want to put this to...
I promise. The problem is that from here on out, she's not negotiating only with her own party. And that now it gets tough because there are 27 other countries with whom she has to make this.
Yeah, and Annalisa, as our European this week, what do you make of the argument coming sniffily from some Europeans that actually this is just UK membership of the EU but without the badge?
Absolutely. I mean, it looks very much like that. The view from Brussels was less positive than what Ned has just described. Because, yes, she has made a shift and it's slightly clearer. But she was told that she cannot have her cake and eat it. And she was told that she cannot cherry pick. And what she came out with was a smaller cake with a lot of cherries in it. So it's not going to work. So it feels like... I mean, there is some kind of a constant repetition, a tedious insistence or something that is not going to happen, is not on the table. Not a small cake, not a big cake, not the cherries. So there is a moment of reality that needs to happen. And I think that in Brussels, everybody's getting really, really tired.
And yet, Michael, it was welcomed widely across the party. She seems to have done what in her own party seemed, if not impossible, then improbable, to kind of get everyone behind her with the speech she made on Friday.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Here we are, we're approaching the one-year deadline till the date we're supposed to leave the European Union, and she is still having to placate that wing of her party that used to be called Eurosceptic and now is called Brexiteer. And, 25 years ago, this is what was going on. John Major had to do this all the time. He had to eventually stand outside Downing Street and say to the cabinet bastards, back me or sack me. And to think that 25 years later, in some cases it's the same people, they're still holding not just their own prime minister and government to ransom, they're holding the country to ransom. Meanwhile, over in Brussels, they're waiting to see what they're going to do. Let me just add that, one of the things she reiterated several times in the speech, and this has become a mantra for the Brexiteers, is we have to take back control of our money and take back control of our borders. We're not in the euro. We have control of our money. We're not in Schengen. We have control of our borders. And in fact, by putting the kind of unspoken border that still exists between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland back in play as a political issue, they have created a level of chaos. And one last thing, about 25 years ago, when you do a negotiation in Brussels, everybody knows, nobody knows a thing, because the negotiators are professional. They keep their mouths shut. We shouldn't be talking about in public what we want and what they want, because the real negotiations happen under cover of darkness, and journalists have to spend hours trying to figure out exactly what the sticking points are.
There was quite a bit of detail, though, in that speech. To be fair, it did get into the nitty-gritty more than previously. But I want to ask Diane, I mean, this is so different from the politics of China, what we've been discussing. But, from your position, what do you make of the week we've just seen in terms of Theresa May's speech, in terms of the draft legal document that we saw in the EU earlier in the week?
Well, to me, it isn't much of an escalator going up and down. It's a conveyor belt going round and round. And Theresa May always says, I've made it very clear. It's never been clear. And it's 20 months later, she still does the sound bites. To me, Theresa May is a typical middle manager who has no vision, who doesn't know where this thing is going. And worse yet, she is very much boxed in by her party. I agree with Michael. She is still doing internal politics within the Tory party. This is the point where the country needs leadership. She hasn't provided that leadership for the past 20 months. She's not providing it now.